Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim. Hey.
How's it going, everyone?
Hey, so we're having our first episode, like our first normal episode.
Are you excited?
I am excited about this. You guys have to know this, that Josh and I have been talking about this for weeks, and constantly I'm like, we really need to start this podcast because I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, we have a group chat for our business, and it's pretty much exclusively sending articles and screenshots back and forth. And so now we have an outlet to share our thoughts with the rest of the world or whoever will listen to us.
True. Okay, so today we want to talk about mass adoption of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic because in our intro video or episode, if you guys have listened to that, we talked about how one of our goals is to bring a different financial system to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And mass adoption is just part of that. And I'm not saying that crypto is 100% the gold standard or the answer for the new one, but I think it's a great step in the right direction, and having more people be open to it and accepting of it is only going to help facilitate that change.
I think so too. I think what's so awesome about cryptocurrency and kind of what it represents right now is that it's decentralized. And I talked a little bit about this in our intro video, but I think really being able to put value and finances back in the hands of the people is a really big deal. Mm-hmm. So we've run across a few different articles that we just wanted to touch on today. First, let's talk about China. So I think China is probably every American's least favorite subject to talk about. But in this instance, earlier this year, at least this is when I learned about it, they adopted a national digital currency. So they went through this process. They've always been kind of like, yes, Bitcoin, no Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin, no Bitcoin. Yeah. But this year they then again said no Bitcoin, but we're rolling out our own digital currency. So from what I've seen, there's something called a digital yuan. And then what was the name you saw for it, Josh?
A central bank digital currency.
Something like this. The one thing that I want to talk about with this that I think is very intriguing and a huge step in the right direction, even though in my own opinion, I think they've missed it because it's still controlled by a central bank. Mm. The one thing that they've already started doing is they're paying salaries in this digital currency, which is a huge, huge leap from what we have been doing. I mean, we can talk dollars. I think most of this podcast, we're going to talk crypto and dollars. Why? Because the dollar is the king currency in the world. The whole world measures their economies against the dollar. And that's just kind of been the standard.
Right.
Sadly, we used to have the gold standard, but now it's kind of the dollar standard. But I think it's really interesting when we're in a place where everything is still paid in the dollar, but China is really kind of blazing ahead and saying, no, we're doing this. Here it's starting. We're making it. We're just rolling it out to the whole country.
Right. And obviously we would like to see the digital currency not be centralized, not be issued by the government. We'd love it to be a decentralized, option. But I do think that it's a step in that direction. And, I guess my concern would be, once you go to a central bank issued digital currency, are you ever going to be able to step back into a decentralized one? I suppose that's kind of the the argument and the fear for some of the crypto people is, hey, if I'm investing in Bitcoin and Bitcoin is um, largely used in Asia and China was a huge user of it, is now the banning of that and the use of a central bank digital currency, is that going to affect my investment and my value in
Mm,
that? And I suppose yeah, I think there's some legitimate fears to be had with that, but it still is kind of encouraging to see countries step into this, not just people as individuals. There's I've heard stories of farmers that pay their employees in Ethereum, or small transactions with retailers being done back and
mm,
forth, but it's there's not very many that are happening on a national scale.
true. I just as you were talking about that, I was reminded of a friend of ours over in South Africa. He was telling us, this was last March that he was telling us, but I think this is very telling and it's very indicative of what the power of cryptocurrency could be. He was talking about migrant workers, and I think it was Zimbabwe. Do you
I
remember
don't
this
remember. I
story?
don't remember. I remember the story. I don't remember the exact country.
It was it was somewhere over there, and I haven't been to the country he was talking about, so I didn't have anything to really root my memory there. But these migrant workers who the men go and they find hard labor jobs and they go and they work and they do whatever they can to make money to send back to their home country to support their families. In the US, we see a lot of this with migrant workers from Mexico who will come here and work hard, 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 send the dollars back to Mexico. Anyway, in this story, and this is a real thing that's happening, our friend was talking about how cryptocurrency has really changed their ability to be able to send money back home, because what was happening is they go to this other country, they make the money in that country's currency, and then they have to go either wire it and pay a wire fee plus an exchange rate, like an exchange fee, to get the money back to their families so that they can use it. However, these farmers who have hired these migrant workers have started paying out in cryptocurrency. So let's say Bitcoin. And now these migrant workers are able to instantly get the money into their wallet. They can instantly transfer it to their families without having huge exchange rates and wire fees between point A and point B, essentially. Yes, there are still fees associated on the blockchain, but they're significantly lower. So without having any kind of pay increase, these migrant workers who are scraping by already, usually when it's situations like that, what I have seen, what I have experienced is people come, they work, they send almost everything they make back home to support their families because that's just how they are. But with this, I would imagine they could still be sending the same amount of money home and have a little bit more to live on themselves, or they could be sending even more home. Anyway, I feel like that's wildly impactful. So we're
Yeah.
not talking just first world countries. This is impacting third world countries too. People who already have a hard time making ends meet, and then this is increasing the value of what they can make. I think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, not only is it a faster process, I mean, once their employer pays them, I mean, a crypto transfer, I mean, I've had a couple that took a couple hours, but a lot of times it's less than 30 minutes. And if you're getting a paycheck and you're going to a bank and you're depositing it and then you're trying to transfer it, you could be talking about a week or more process that is now, you could be getting paid by your employer in, 30 minutes and have the money sent out in the next 30 minutes. And there's depending on what system you were using, your family could start using that almost immediately.
Right. That's
I mean,
huge.
that's a huge impact in just the time and in their lives. And so I think as that stuff starts becoming more commonplace, we will see more people adopting digital currencies.
Right.
Hopefully decentralized digital currencies, but I think we will see that more and more. And the more that it happens, the more stability that'll put into the market, the more
Mhm.
people that are using it. While we were looking for information about this show, we came across an article that said uh, roughly 4% of the world's population currently uses cryptocurrency. Well, that's and there's quite a bit of money. There's over $2 trillion worth of market cap in there. And to me, that says that a lot of the people that are in there now are the financial institutions, they're the
Mm.
bigger money people, and there's obviously quite a few people that are just normal everyday people, or you know even poverty stricken people.
Mm.
But I think that a lot of the market cap has to come from people who have a larger amount of money, who come from the financial institutions that we're used to seeing. And I think as you get the population, as you get the crypto population to increase, the less of an impact the huge financial institutional people will actually have on the market.
Mhm. I agree. I think one of the other things that is interesting to touch on with this is that, and maybe I have a skewed view of this, but I feel like traditional trading in stock markets and stuff is pretty much reserved for those who have the extra capital to invest, and or people who have money in an IRA or 401k,
Mhm.
right? Where they may not even know where their money is going.
Right.
What I think is cool about crypto at this point is it really is not for just a certain demographic. Anyone can put money into cryptocurrency and still have it readily available to use. We've talked a lot about crypto.com and their debit card.
Mhm.
So they have, and there are other companies who are making this possible too, and who are working on the technology to make this happen. But being able to get a debit card where you load the money on, you have to have so much of their native coin staked to have the card, but then it's a Visa and you can go spend it anywhere in the world that accepts Visa, which is a lot of the world,
Right.
right? We've traveled overseas, always visas, like we travel with a credit card. And Visa is always the main one that is accepted everywhere. So there are ways to have the money you're already using put into crypto, be earning things. You get gains, you can stake it, you can have returns on these things. And I've told people who are just curious even about cryptocurrencies, like just put $50 in, like just put it in and see how it does. Get a feel for it, see how you like it. I know there are people who would argue that if you're not putting a certain amount in, then it's not worth anything, but I disagree. I feel like kind of getting in with a little bit that isn't going to be a sacrifice for you, something like my husband and I, we might spend $50 going to the movies on a weekend, right?
Mhm.
Between tickets and popcorn and drinks, easy $50, right? So instead of being willing to spend that weekend, let's be willing to put it into Bitcoin and see how it does. And
Well, and we've both had trades where it was kind of a gamble, and you
mhm,
maybe put 100, 200, $300
right.
into something and have seen great returns where you ended up with thousands. And so I think, both of us, I've heard both of us tell people, put whatever you can, put $25, put $50, and you can do it in the bigger coins, but you can also do it, and you can also gamble on some of the altcoins that are, tenths or hundredths of pennies. And, if something happens with it, you can have great returns.
It's true. It's true. So I think this is, I think it's cool to see how many different people from different walks of life are really getting into this and they're able to. It
Mhm.
really is open to anyone. I think the cool thing about a lot of these exchanges is that individuals can sign up and manage their own money. At least for me, maybe because I haven't been so immersed in it. I feel like trading in stock markets are significantly harder for the individual. I mean, I guess you could get Robinhood, and that kind of made it easy for the layman to do whatever. Um, but also, we've heard all about Robinhood this year, which I don't know that we want to get into, but
Right. Yes. No, I definitely think you are starting to see more and more uses. I think the debit cards,
Mm,
I know crypto.com, that's the one that I use. I think Coinbase might have one. I think Uphold might have one.
mhm,
So there's several different exchanges out there that are doing that. And I think that it's great because it's it's the first step in actually using crypto with with a retailer. Like
right.
it's that first step with that. I had my car service today at just a small local place, and when I went to pay, the guy said, "All right, we accept cash, check, credit cards, and gold coins." And I was like, well, that's kind of funny. Have you ever had anyone pay with a gold
Mhm.
coin? And he said, no, no one's ever taken me up on that. But you'd be surprised how many people ask me if we accept Bitcoin. And I thought that was really interesting. It piqued my interest. And so I just kind of mentioned, like, hey, like there are ways of doing that. There's ways that you as a servicer could accept a crypto, but there's also ways that the consumer could pay using their crypto that you would never see it as crypto.
Mm.
And there's so many possibilities, and I think we're in an exciting time of, we're kind of riding on a fence of, is crypto going to actually become mainstream, or are the central banks going to step in and say, no, we're going to put our idea of this out there. And I think we have a chance to maybe have a say in how some of that works out.
I think you're right. And I think it's exciting, honestly. I hope it is my hope, and I hope I don't get jailed for this, but it is my hope that we can get away from the central bank stuff
Right.
globally. Um, I don't care if we're all using 20 different currencies still, but maybe it's Bitcoin and Ethereum and it's Polkadot and it's Avalanche and maybe it's some of these other currencies that are out there, um, that aren't centralized.
Right.
I think that there has been so much corruption that has come through, okay, at least in the US. Essentially, the government is being controlled by the Fed, which is not even a governmental entity.
Right.
They're the ones who control the money. They give out certificates saying, I owe you this much money because you put this much value in. So our dollar bills are just IOUs. I don't know. It's
Right.
crazy.
It is.
And I mean, and the whole world looks at the dollar like it's something special. And I don't really think it is.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you see, I think this is a great example. So we have countries like the US who will probably be a very late adopter to any type of digital currency. Then you have countries like China who have always kind of been leaders in tech, and they have their own issued digital currency. And then you have countries like El Salvador who are using Bitcoin. They've taken a already existing digital currency and said, "Hey, we're going to recognize this as as a form of currency." So, and what that did was, I can, in the United States, there are retailers who I can go and I can pay with crypto. But what El Salvador did was, by making it a national currency, they didn't get rid of the fiat currencies that they were already using, which was the dollar, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
but they added this as an option. So you can pay loans, you can pay taxes, you can anything that you could previously do with a dollar, you can now do with a Bitcoin there. And that's a huge step. And I kind of see it as a like a trial. And I think there's probably a lot of countries out there that are seeing, okay, how does this play out for El Salvador? How is this going to
Mm-hmm.
work for them? Is it gonna pay off and be useful, or is it going to fail? And I'm watching it as well. I think it's really interesting. Their president's very active on Twitter, and every time Bitcoin drops, he talks about, oh, I'm buying the dip, I'm doing this. And I think that that's pretty it's fun to watch. I think one of the things that crypto has changed, at least in my mindset about finance, is it's become fun and
Mm-hmm.
it's become a community. And I think the previous financial system it's not viewed that way. It's not a fun experience. Trading's not a fun experience on the stock market. You may have some cool stories here and there, but when you have meme coins that are suddenly being worth significant amounts of money and
Mm-hmm.
people making large returns off of them, I think you're just I think that I think people are saying, this is where we put value. We love the community, we love the fun, and we don't need the old stuffy, boys club that it used to be.
It's true. We went out for wings one night. We went out for wings and beer. And I don't even know how it happened. I don't know how it came up, and maybe you can fill in the blanks, Josh. But our waiter, we wound up talking to our waiter about cryptocurrency the entire time we were there. And then he had the bartender come over, and we were talking to the bartender about cryptocurrency. And when you talk about community being built around this new way of handling finances, it's true. Like, if you're in cryptocurrency, if you're not, if you ask somebody about it, I guarantee you'll get a conversation.
Yeah.
And honestly, in this world that has been so divided for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, having something to really kind of join arms and be on the same page about, it's great. And it's something that is fun. It's not something that we're not talking about life and death all the time with this stuff. You know what I mean? It is, I would argue that it is more full of life than a lot of the things we've been able to talk about in the last couple of years.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time that other things have been so divisive, this has been something to rally around. And so it's really become this community in the midst of mass division in the world.
It's true. It's true. And honestly, anything, not, I won't say anything because I don't actually mean that, but something like this that, at least for me, the Father has led me to and brings unity, I'm all about that. Anything that will unify us and has the stamp of the Father on it, that's what I say.
Works for me.
Heck yes. Okay. Well, I just want to mention a couple more things about mass adoption. One of the things we were looking at before we started recording this podcast was, we look at a bunch of newsletters. So we get all these newsletters from all these different exchanges. And honestly, they're full of really interesting information. I'm surprised at how much I read these newsletters compared to how much I read other junk that comes into my inbox. But one fun little tidbit, if you want to even just look at the scale of mass adoption in the last year, at the beginning of January 2021, the total cryptocurrency in circulation was $680 billion. Right now, currently, it's $2.3 trillion worth. That's a 338% increase in the last 12 months, which means more and more people are jumping on board. Yes, there may be a couple big whales out there who like bought up a lot, but I think this is indicative of people really getting on board with this.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, it's just that increase is crazy because during 2020 there was a pretty good increase just in 2020,
Yeah.
and in 2021 it's like exploded. And right now, everything's kind of a little bit down and people are talking about, oh, this crash, and it's losing its steam. And man, I just, with that sort of an increase year over year, and with it still only being 4% of the world's population that are into it, I don't think we're anywhere close to what we're going to see from crypto.
I agree. I've heard a lot of people in the last couple years compare this time that we're in the crypto sphere, compare it to the gold rush. And we are literally in the midst of the gold rush in the crypto world.
Mm,
And so it's also really interesting talking to people who are thinking about getting in or not getting in. They're like, oh, I know it's too late. I waited too long. And always I'm like, it is not too late.
right.
If only 4% of the world is in this, there's still another 96% that could possibly adopt. And with the way that things are going in all of the world's economy, I would imagine next year we may see double that increase. I don't
Yeah.
know, but it's
I
crazy.
think it's
So,
I think it's totally possible. I love the memes that are, someone crying. It's like, oh, I missed Bitcoin when it hit $100. It's too late now. And then it's, oh, I missed Bitcoin. It's at $10,000 now.
mhm,
It's too late now. And you know, even now, and we're talking about it being during a dip or a crash or whatever you want to call it, it's still at 47,000. And so, just 2020, 2019, your your increases from that time frame are just astronomical.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's nothing to think okay. I have a lot to say about this. I need to get thoughts straight. I would say it's nothing to bat an eye at. Like those kinds of increases are still very large increases. If we look at traditional markets, you will never see those kinds of increases. And we're still up from the beginning of the year. Like
Right.
we look at this and people are like, oh no, it's a huge crash and all these things. But if you look at those who are hodling, holding their assets, we're still significantly up.
Yeah.
So if you're a short-term trader, maybe you're down, maybe you just invested, but there's so much room for increase.
Bitcoin from today 2020 to today 2021 is up 72%.
See,
I mean, that's crazy. And so I think Kim is spot on in, can you lose money in the short term? Sure. Is it still at some point a little bit of a speculative investment? Sure.
mhm.
But it's a speculative investment that has so much potential that I just don't want to see people miss it. Like, I want to see everyone jump on this train.
I completely agree. And honestly, if I'm going to give any advice in this moment, I would say get in. Like take the dive, get in now. I think once the new year hits, we're going to start seeing things go back up significantly. I think we're in a real sweet spot right now in December, where things have been down and it's a great time to buy.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for our first real episode.
Yeah, thank you. Have if you enjoyed the content, please stick around. We plan on doing a lot more of this. And if you have some questions, feel free to reach out on our social medias, and we will be in touch as soon as possible. We'd love to have some topics and questions that we can address as well. So
Awesome. We're out. Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.